Moving on to file item 111, ACR125 by Assemblymember Pellerin. The clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 125 by Assemblymember Pellerin and others relative to National Human Trafficking Awareness Month.
Assemblymember Pellerin, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise to present ACR 125 in partnership with our colleague from Stockton, which will designate the month of January 2024 as National Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Human trafficking is a crime that involves the use of coercion to recruit and harbor a person for their forced labor or commercial sexual exploitation. Traffickers will often use violence, fraudulent employment agencies, and fake promises of education and job opportunities to trick, coerce, and deceive their victims. This heinous crime can come in many forms. Victims of labor trafficking are often forced to work in factories, on construction sites, or in the agricultural sector without pay or with an inadequate salary, living in fear of violence and often in inhumane conditions. Victims of sex trafficking frequently work in industries where they are coerced to perform sex acts for money, such as illicit massage business or for adult entertainment. Additionally, anyone under the age of 18 who is forced or coerced to exchange sex for anything of value is also a victim of human trafficking. Traffickers employ a variety of control tactics, most commonly including physical and emotional abuse and threats, isolation from friends and family, and economic abuse. They make promises aimed at addressing the needs of their target to impose control. As a result, victims become trapped and fear leaving for a myriad of reasons, including psychological trauma, shame, emotional attachment, or physical threats to themselves or their family. Human trafficking rarely conforms to the stereotypical image of kidnapping. Instead, it frequently occurs through discrete networks and interpersonal relationships. Individuals, families, and businesses who exploit others often seem legitimate. In fact, according to the Polaris Project nonprofit, many people in active sex trafficking situations do not recognize themselves as being victims because they have been expertly groomed by a trafficker to believe they have chosen to participate in commercial sex or labor. The strategic methods of human trafficking are what make it so difficult to track. So we must recognize that people of all genders, ages, and backgrounds can become victims of this crime, which occurs in every region of the world. Moreover, all ages, genders, and backgrounds can be human traffickers. With that, we must also recognize that people who experience trafficking are often among the most socially and economically vulnerable. Many survivors are disproportionately racial and ethnic minorities, indigenous populations, women and girls, members of the LGBTQ+ community, and migrants, people who are more extremely vulnerable to exploitation due to social, legal, and cultural marginalization. Even if they have the opportunities to report their situation, victims of trafficking may not report it for fear of retaliation or violence. Human trafficking is an affront to human dignity, and as we think about this horrific crime impacting people locally and globally in our own communities, we must remember that this is the survivor's story, and it is our duty to listen and act. That is why ACR 125 emphasizes the anti-trafficking movement as a movement of survivors and states that here in California, we are committed in partnering with and learning from survivors, the many advocacy groups who give their insight into policy solutions. Programs like Rising Worldwide's Safe and Sound, a first-in-the-nation survivor-created and led training for schools and businesses, teach youth, educators, community members how to identify human trafficking, how to prevent it, and how to stay safe, and how to end it. One of their projects is creating bracelets. Survivors of human trafficking will create these safe and sound bracelets. I'm wearing one today in their honor. And all of you have received a poster I hope you will put on your door proclaiming January as Human Trafficking Month. ACR125 will further express California's commitment to combating all forms of human trafficking, supporting the recovery and empowerment of victims and survivors, prosecuting offenders, and raising community awareness. In solidarity with survivors and human trafficking leaders on this resolution, I respectfully ask for your support and co-authorship of ACR 125.
The ayes have it. Resolution is adopted. Assemblymember Pellerin, you are again recognized for your guest introductions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning, I'd like to welcome staff members of Rising Worldwide to the floor. Rising Worldwide is founded and led by survivors of gender-based violence and human trafficking. Its mission is to disrupt poverty and exploitation through education and entrepreneurship. Jess Torres is a survivor leader at Rising who manages Rising's Safe and Sound, a human trafficking prevention program for youth. This innovative program was launched in California schools in 2015 in my district. It's one of the first prevention programs, maybe the only one in the nation, to be created and led by survivors of trafficking. When Jess came to Rising, they were not new to the anti-trafficking movement. Jess Torres is a trans-Indigenous writer, educator, and organizer dedicated to community building, direct action, and policy work for the marginalized and criminalized. Jess is a systems-impacted youth with lived experience of child trafficking. They have 15 years of advocacy experience in the anti-trafficking movement. Today, it is my honor to announce that resolution, ACR 125, that we just passed, was written by Jess Torres, with support from other survivors. Thank you, Jess and Rising Worldwide, for bringing your voice and wisdom to the State Assembly. And I also want to introduce Maricruz Baldwin, who's a peer counselor and resource manager for Safe and Sound. And we welcome Joanna Friedman, who is a documentary filmmaker on the floor today. Thank you, colleagues, for giving them a warm welcome.